Good evening, dear friends. Today we'll discuss the Marxist approach to international relations. Now we know that Marxist approach is one really very divergent approach compared to the traditional approaches like realist approach, idealist approach, or liberal approach. Now the Marxist approach is viewed as principally a part of critical approaches. There are a lot of critical approaches uh, related to the interpretation of international relations. Now these critical approaches primarily they seek to challenge the global status quo. Okay, these are approaches which are opposing the norms, the values, and the basic principles based on which the world order is created. Okay, now the critical approaches tends to view the traditional approaches like realism or idealism or liberalism as ways of concealing and legitimizing the imbalances of power. Okay, the injustice that's been there as a part of international system is concealed and it is legitimized through these approaches. Okay, uh, the the critical approaches tends to be the critical approaches tend to be emancipatory and they seek to overthrow oppression. Therefore, any form of oppression, any form of oppressive structures, exploitation, are all seen from a completely different perspective by these critical theories, right? And one of the foremost of these critical theories is Marxist approach. Okay, and the Marxist approach tends to view uh, international relations from a completely different perspective. Now we know that the traditional approaches to international relations, like realism or idealism or liberalism, they take the sovereign state system, the international structures, and the international values and the value systems proposed by the present world order. Okay, global bodies like United Nations Organization or WTO, they're all taken for granted. They're all taken to be as a part of a world order which has gained consensus from the entire international community of nations. But these things are challenged by the critical theories, my dear friends. Okay, now that's the reason why the notions of international relations which are considered to be acceptable nowadays are rejected by the critical theories. Okay, for example, the notion related to nation state system is also rejected by a good number of critical theorists. Okay, now as I told you, Marxist approach to international relations also tends to challenge the traditional notions of international relations. Okay, and the Marxist approach to international relations is founded on the thoughts expressed by Karl Marx. Karl Marx believed that capitalism was always of transnational character. Okay, now the drive for profit in the capitalism tends to create its own structures. For example, we know that according to the Marxist theoreticians, the Westphalian notion of state was an outcome of the drive of capitalism to ensure that the nation state system is entrenched so that new concepts like nationalism, patriotism, okay, can be propagated, which will give legitimacy for the nation states to wage wars, adopt an expansionist or an imperialist policy so that the capitalists could have their business or trade interests served in other parts of the world. Therefore, um, capitalism was intrinsically, very very expansive, expansionist, and all the efforts that the nation states have taken up in terms of expanding their territories, expanding their domination, creating dominions, all these were a part of an agenda which served the interests of the capitalists. Now this was how Marxists have approached international relations. Therefore, they questioned the very basis of the formation of nation state. Okay, now the formation of nation states entrenching themselves, giving birth to concepts like nationalism or patriotism or motherland, fatherland, they were all considered by Marxists as the requirement of capitalism at one point of history. Okay, but then again, with the changing scenario, capitalism required new structures, and therefore the nature of international relations has also fundamentally been altered. Okay, so the requirements of capitalists has given birth to new structures, new practices, new beliefs and processes. Everything is interpreted by Marxists in a completely different manner. Okay, for example, earlier there used to be barter system of exchange. For better uh, exchange practices, token currency was introduced. Okay, a good number of people that belong to one specific uh, thinking, They even interpret the outbreak of an epidemic called corona as uh, a conspiracy unleashed by some sections of the global community, which were more interested in trying to propagate a new way of exchange, a more efficient manner of exchange, through currency. A virus can be propagated, therefore we require a new form of exchange which is based on digital mode, so probably a new form of exchange practice is propagated by um, unleashing a threat of virus, which could discourage the traditional modes of exchange. So there is one school which propagates such kind of ideas. Anyway, capitalism, according to the Marxists, have given birth to uh, new structures, which mark the present world order, which is fundamentally different from the previous world order. Therefore, as per the requirements of capitalism, the nature of the world order also continues to change. Okay, and you know that according to Marxists, okay, imperialism is the highest stage of capitalism. This was the idea put forth by Lenin. Lenin actually wrote a book called Imperialism, the Final Stage of Capitalism, right? So, expansionism, imperialism, they're all part of policies adopted by nation states to serve the interests of the capitalists. Therefore, the kind of international system that has been created is primarily a bourgeois world order, okay? And according to Marxists, the international relations are going to occur in such a way that they would slowly progress to an inevitable final phase of international relations where there will be a new form of new international relations that will characterize the community of global socialist nations, in which there won't be barriers, there won't be any of the structures which are created by the bourgeois world order. Okay, so this is fundamentally what the Marxists are trying to say. Okay, now let us try and understand the basic principles behind the Marxist theory. Now we know that the Marxist theories are based on the principle of base and superstructure. Okay, the base being the economic mode of production, and you know that there is a global mode of production which has created its own relations. Okay, now the global mode of production is controlled or dominated by one section of society which owns the means of production, or the major means of production. Okay, so irrespective of national barriers, for example, you know that we have petroleum reserves in the Gulf region, but most of these reserves are controlled by multinational corporations based in the West. A good number of countries in the African continent are richly endowed with a lot of minerals, but these resources, these uh, these mineral resources are actually under the control of the multinational corporations, which are able to erect, puppet regimes. Therefore, irrespective of geographical barriers, irrespective of political borders, the major means of production are owned and controlled by one section of society, global society. They are um, uh, those who control the mode of production. Okay, and based on this economic mode of production, we have a superstructure. And the superstructure includes all the structures that have been created at the global level to sustain the exploitative mode of production. Therefore, international politics is a part of the superstructure, according to Marxists. Okay, now according to Marxists, the international relations create a bourgeois world order. Okay, and this world order exists to sustain and serve the exploitative interests of the capitalists. Okay, and whatever concepts that the international system propagates, concepts like nationalism or patriotism, okay, all these are for imposing a false consciousness and to keep the working class divided based on national borders or boundaries. This is a false consciousness that is imposed on the people through the superstructure. Okay, and this is how the Marxists account for the world order. Okay, so this is primarily a bourgeois world order as identified by Marxists. Okay, now according to the Marxists, this bourgeois world order is full of contradictions. Okay, and this bourgeois world order is going to come down on the weight of its own contradictions. There are a good number of contradictions that beset the global order, okay, which is primarily for serving the interests of the capitalists. Now, the various contradictions which are identified by several Marxists include, that the present world order creates a relationship of dominance and dependency. There are areas which dominate, there are countries which dominate, and there are countries which are converted into dependencies. Even in spite of the fact that these countries might have their own resources, they still remain as dependents. They remain as dependencies. For example, a particular country has its own resources, but still the country might have to depend on the capital of some other countries. Okay, another country which might have resources as well as capital might depend on the technological know-how of another country. So the kind of world order that is created presently creates a relationship of dominance and dependence. And second contradiction that has been identified by Marxists is that this world order has led to uneven development. It has led to abundance and prosperity in one part of the world that is structurally related to poverty, scarcity, and deprivation. Okay, and very very low standards of life in another part of the world. So uneven development is a characteristic feature of the present world order, which is yet another of a huge number of contradictions that the world order suffers from. The third important contradiction that has been identified is exploitation. The present world order has allowed a part of the world to exploit the other part of the world. This has created a relationship of exploiter, okay, and the exploited, right? It has allowed exploitation of other regions by several nation states, which has led to scarcity. Okay, now there is a contradiction in this relationship, primarily as mentioned by Marxists, because the scarcity is not natural or geographically induced, but the scarcity is artificially infused or induced. For example, um, the capitalist system can create a scarcity in a way that the producers of agricultural surpluses might themselves die out of hunger or indebtedness. So that section of society which has been the primary reason for producing agricultural surplus has actually um, suffered from scarcity, deprivation, indebtedness, and hunger sometimes. So this is uh, a contradiction, isn't it? The same segment of society which has produced the surplus is subjected to deprivation. Okay. Also, the present world order uh, can create such kind of a contradiction in society. So scarcity, not because of lack of resources, but scarcity because of the nature of relations that the countries have entered into. That's the primary reason for scarcity. Now this is a contradiction that is a result of the capitalist mode of production. Okay. Now another contradiction identified by Marxists is the increased tendency of the present world order, okay, to solve disputes by force. Okay, so more and more resort to force, coercion, okay, threat, and conflict. They are taken recourse to by the present world order for resolution of conflicts, and that has led to capitalism reaching a stage of moribund capitalism. Moribund, about to die, about to meet its death. So this is the kind of the contradiction that the present world order creates. Okay. Now, according to Marxists, okay, with the outbreak of socialist revolution in some countries, there will be two groups of nations. One group in which there is a socialist mode of production, and another group of countries in which there is a capitalist mode of production. Something like what we have seen in the form of the bipolar world after the Second World War, where there were two ideologically distinct power blocks, right? So this would mean internationalization of class war. Okay. Now the fact that there would be two different community of nations, both having their own modes of production, would take class war to an international level. Okay. Now this primarily is the kind of international an interpretation given by the Marxists to the international relations. Okay. Now very broadly we can identify two fundamental schools within the Marxist approach to international politics. The first school is called as the world system theory. Okay. And the second school is called as the Gramscian school. Okay. The world systems theory is represented by very famous Marxists like Immanuel Wallerstein, Lenin, Rosa Luxemburg, Gunnar Frank, etc. Okay. The Gramscian school, on the other hand, is represented very very popularly by Robert Cox. These are the two important schools of Marxist interpretation of international politics. Now, before we look at the other aspects of Marxism, we very briefly try to take a look at what both these schools of Marxism have got to propose. Now, because of the entrenchment of the capitalist world order, okay, according to the world systems theory, the kind of world order that is resultant is a world order which can be explained through what are called as dependency theories. Okay, now these dependency theories tend to interpret the international system based on a integrated structure. Now this kind of theorization about international system became very very popular after 1945, and one big reason which has given spurt to this kind of theorization about the international system was because of the widespread prevalence of the practice of neo-colonialism. Okay, now the practice of neo-colonialism allowed the Marxists to interpret the international system in a slightly different way. Okay, now they understood that the inequalities, the inequalities that exist between countries are structurally related. There is an interrelationship between prosperity in one part of the world with the scarcity, deprivation, and underdevelopment in another part of the world. So the inequalities between the community of nations are structurally related. This was the first assumption of the dependency theorists. Now Immanuel Walter's team tried to identify the relationship between the development and underdevelopment in various parts of the world through his core periphery model. Okay, now the core countries are industrially advanced, prosperous, and technologically superior northern countries. Okay, and these countries have secured their development at the cost of the least developed countries. And there is a semi-periphery country. There is a semi-periphery in the world system which consists of in developing countries or countries which have experienced intermediate levels of development. And these countries, they act as the buffer between the core and the periphery countries, sustaining the international system which is exploitative. Therefore, the core countries have developed, the core countries have advanced, the core countries have attained prosperity at the cost of the least developed countries. Now, this was the thesis of Immanuel Walter's team. Okay, the next important theoretician is A.G. Frank. He also tries to identify a relationship between development and underdevelopment. Okay, now he says that development and underdevelopment are the two sides of a world process. Um, they are a single process that occurs in the world. Okay, so development in one part of the world can be related structurally to the underdevelopment in another part of the world. Now, this is called as development of underdevelopment. Okay, and the first world countries, which are the capitalist countries, the second world are the socialist, and the third world countries are the developing, the underdeveloped, and the least developed countries. Now, according to Kundal Frank, the development of the first world countries was at the expense of the least developed countries. This is his thesis. Now, the second important school related to the Marxist theory of international politics is called as the Gramscian school or the Frankfurt school of Marxian approach to international relations. Now, this was a school that received influence from the writings of Antonio Gramsci, the very famous Italian Marxist. Now, he believed that the capitalist international system, which is a class system, is upheld by unequal economic and political power as well as hegemony. Okay, therefore, not only economic dominance, not only political dominance, but also because of dominance imposed on the culture, the dominance imposed on ideas of the third world countries, which has actually allowed the developed countries to extract consent from the developing countries, which is the primary reason for the entrenchment of the capitalist international order. Okay, now Robert Cox had come out with a very important work through which he tried to analyze the hegemonic power of USA in its ability to generate consent of the entire world for the world order it represents. Okay, so a unipolar world, a good part of the world is okay with America remaining as a global hegemon. A good part of the world is okay with America controlling or dominating international organizations. Okay, a good part of the world is okay with America acting as the source for the process of globalization. Okay, so this is how America is able to extract consent from the rest of the world. So this is how the domination of the international order is legitimized by a hegemony. Okay, so this is actually how the Frankfurt School tries to account for the entrenchment of the capitalist international economic system. Okay, so this is the thesis of the Marxist about the present world order. Okay, now what is it that the Marxists have got to predict for? Because Marxism is a combination of both some assumptions as well as some predictions, isn't it? Now, Marxists try to portray a completely different style of international relations that could exist between the socialist states. Now, the Marxists believe that The international relations are a new type of international relations which are based on the principles of socialist international. Okay, now between the socialist countries, the type of international relations we see are what they call as the new type of international relations, and the principles of these international relations are based on what they term as socialist international. Okay, now this new type of international relations consist of principles like belief in the commonality of the vital interests of the workers across the world without being differentiated by any political borders, irrespective of borders or barriers. All the workers spread across the entire community of nations have same vital interests. Okay, and secondly, they believe that with more and more countries turning socialist, as socialist ideology becomes more and more popular, okay, and the truth slowly emerges, the bourgeois concepts like nationism, nation state will slowly wither away. Okay, ultimately, the working class across all the borders will unite to create a new world community of socialist states. This is how um, communists or Marxists believe that communism is a world process. Today, just as we consider that globalization is a world process, Marxists believe that communism is a world process, and the world will inevitably move towards communism. Okay, because the the bourgeois world order is full of contradictions. Okay, that's the reason why Karl Marx gives a call to the workers across the entire world to unite, because the future, which is inevitable, which is irresistible, okay, is a future of a global community of socialist states in which there will be no political barriers, and all those concepts related to the bourgeois world order, along with structures and institutions, ideas, will slowly wither away. Okay, so this is the truth about the world. This is how the world will move towards a new type of international relations, which will be characterized by cooperation, which replaces force or coercion, and this will be the most efficient mode of distribution, because there will be no political barriers or borders, and goods, services, resources will move from surplus areas to deficit areas, affecting the most efficient form of distribution without any barriers, and a new world order will then ensue. This is the Marxist theory of international politics. Obviously, this kind of a theory suffers from a lot of criticisms, including the idea of Marxism being completely dependent on economy, okay, to try and interpret the social or international realities. Now, this is called as economic determinism. Secondly, it is also a truth that there is no consensus among the Marxists themselves. Okay, and thirdly, what we see today is something that's exactly opposing to what the Marxists have what to claim. For example, Marxists have claimed that as the international system will evolve, um, there will be the tendency of nation states to resort more and more to conflict and war for serving their interests. But the present global order has reduced the resolution of disputes by armed conflicts. Wars are not resorted to um, uh, now by nation states for resolution of conflicts as frequently as they were earlier. Therefore, this one assumption of Marxism did not come true. Also, it is a fact that socialist states have quarreled amongst themselves, and the kind of new international relations that would characterize the relations between the socialist states had not come true, or what Karl Marx had said. Ideologically, the countries have differed with each other. For example, China and Soviet Union, and secondly, both a good number of socialist states have vied with each other for protection of their personal interests. And patriotism, the concept of nationalism, is still very much rampant within nation states which have adopted a socialist mode of production as well. Therefore, a good number of assumptions and good number of predictions made by Marxism have not come true. Okay, this is how Marxism, in fact, could not come out with proper interpretation of international politics. However, Marxism is a very, very important approach to understand international relations, primarily because of the fact that it offers an alternative view of how to look at things. How do we look at things in an integrated perspective, the imbalance of power, okay? And how do we really try to understand concepts from a completely different perspective, not taking it for granted the existence of nation state and the concepts related to the present world order, okay, as if they have existed naturally and they have evolved as a part of the global system. Probably what Marxists are trying to tell us is look at the world from a completely different perspective. Who knows where the reality lies? Thank you so much. Neha, ఇది ఆఫ్ అవ్వట్లా.